हेलो हेलो हेलो। अभी सही होगी देखो। Okay, good morning to all of you. There was a slight delay. There was also a parallel class going on, so some things had to be sorted out. Today, again, people offline and online. Online people, just drop me a text if you're able to hear me. I hope this blackboard is visible also. So I'll be giving you the orientation, what all is expected out of you about the course, how are we going to proceed, all these things we'll be talking about. Okay. Okay, so just a clarification from my side. The very first thing is some of you get confused between our offerings. We have a PSIR crash course. The crash course is relevant for the people who are writing the 2026 attempt, okay, or you're preparing for any state exam wherein you have a limited time frame. For that, we have a crash course. So anybody who's preparing for 2027, of course, if you don't have any base, you have to go for the foundation course. If you have already done your foundation, if you've already given mains, if you're stuck at a particular threshold, then for you, the course that we have and we offer is the PSIR 300 plus. And you need to understand that how 300 plus is very different from a test series. Okay. In a test series, what you will have is you will have, well, let's say, a schedule. You have questions, you have evaluation and model answers. Here we go, in fact, 2 or 3 steps beyond that. Okay. And for that, I need to explain you what this program basically, the idea is. And for that, I need to first ask you a question. And first, I need to just talk about the pain points in the optional. Okay. So those who have done the foundation or perhaps even written mains, in fact, when you write your mains, you know very limited time gap is between prelims and mains. Okay. In fact, the students who are writing the mains right now, if they had not prepared well, right now most of them are struggling. Either they don't have notes. If they have notes for certain section, especially paper 2 seems very daunting. If paper 2 they have an idea, but they don't know sort of how much current affairs to cover, in how much of depth it is to be done. So one by one, if I just point this out, the one very obvious thing that we see is that the short notes are not there. And when I say not there, some of you, even if you want to make your notes, you don't know how to do that. You maybe have referred to topper's notes, but the point is there's a difference. Okay, of course, let's say you're a working candidate. If you have less time, you can refer to any popular topper's note. In fact, many of the students I see refer Utkarsh Dwivedi sir's notes. Okay, there are other popular toppers. I think Arvind Shah. You can take, in fact, you can go through the notes, understand the core essence. But then my point always is to summarize in your own way what you best understand. When we make short notes, the idea is, okay, whatever I am likely to forget, that I should codify, I should make mnemonics, I should make it for myself. The things I am likely to remember, I don't need to over elaborate on it. So for example, if I already know what is Marx's theory of alienation, okay, I only need to know the source of his theory. Okay. Second, I need to know the 4 elements of alienation, either from the product, from the process, from the society, or from oneself. If I just know these keywords, and I know in this question, I have to also add a criticism of Karl Marx, who has given us relevant criticism. And how can I link it to the current aspect of the gig workers? Even the gig workers, the right now, the problem that they're facing can also be linked to the problem of alienation. Okay. We can use terms like commodity fetishism. If I've just made very small aspect and directly a question appears, I'll be in a good position to replicate the same thing. Okay. So one thing is having short notes helps, and sometimes you don't have it. Second, it can be a section problem. or it can be a paper problem. And try to be honest. For example, nobody can say all of your sections are equally strong. Some will be more strong, some will be not be as strong. In this class, I want to know, out of these four, what is the most comfortable section for you? A. What about you? 1A? 1B is comfortable. 1A is challenging. Thinkers are challenging or something else? Thinkers and ideologies are challenging. In fact, that forms the whole base of our optional. Okay. So the point is, and generally the people who come who've already done their foundation, the point is you have spent a lot of time in 1A. You've done this in a lot of detail. So there are higher chances of you knowing this better. In fact, to the extent that you have done WPT ideologies in a lot of detail. But if I ask you questions on political theory, if I ask you questions on nuances, how many of you know that there's a topic, Rawls theory of justice? Okay, and the syllabus says the communitarian critique of Rawls theory of justice. But 2 years back, the examiner asked you one step beyond. And write this question somewhere, think about it. In the classes, I already covered it. Entitlement theory of justice. Now, can anybody tell me what this theory is and who spoke about it? It was Nozick, that is correct. Correct. Correct, correct. And in fact, when you do this theory is actually hinged on 3 specific parameters, which we'll see later on. But my point is, you should know that entitlement theory of justice is related to Nozick. Nozick is a libertarian or neoliberal, and he criticizes Rawls. Rawls is somebody who will say reservation must be done, progressive taxation must be done. Nozick says that state cannot force me to take away my property or my goods. If I want to do so, it should be a voluntary mechanism, nothing more than that. And the moment I say voluntary, I can also see some similarities between this and Gandhi's trusteeship model. Although they're not exactly the same. But Gandhi trusteeship model also says the capitalists can voluntarily give up the property, share the property. The state cannot force them to do so. And when I say state cannot force them, will a socialist or a Marxist state, can they force somebody to do it? वो कर सकते हैं. The Marxist take will talk about radical redistribution of property. Okay. So my point is, we have to know, in many cases this can be there. Okay. The problem, and then some people will have a problem in 1B. How do you differentiate it from GS2 polity and PSIR? One issue is this. Second, how many of you have seen the recent paper? In fact, you had already written the recent paper, 2025. Have you seen the paper? In the 2025 paper, in paper 1B, there were questions on the J&K reorganization. The question related to delimitation, questions related to census. What is this telling me? These are current based questions. Okay, I think there was one more, not able to recall right now. So the point is, even 1B now has some element of current affairs. Okay, in fact, this year there's a high chance of a question of governor getting asked. Last year in April 2025, there was the state of Tamil Nadu versus the governor case, and that case also spoke to us about a thing known as constitutional punctuality, that there should be a time limit in which the governor should give the, or at least the bills should be returned back, 1 to 3 months. But just 6 months later, there was again a presidential reference to that, and the same thing was reversed. So my point is, if you have read governor's static, okay, you'll be able to write a decent answer. But if you link it to the recent aspect, if you mention the judgments, you will always have a edge. Second, I come to paper 2A. Now, anybody who is watching this here, you people offline and online, your homework will be, I've taken 2 detailed videos on paper 1, 2025. and paper 2 2025, almost 2.5 hours each. And when you see the analysis, the conventional way to study paper 2A has also changed. Last year, there is, and again with all the books that you see, etc., there are very limited questions in paper 2A. Normally, people assume that in paper 2, I will do this current, this is static. This idea also UPSC has now broken. You see a lot of changes in prelims this year. But if you have noticed the paper of PSIR, from 2024 onwards, I'm telling you, 2024 and 25, the paper are highly dynamic in nature. To the extent, in paper 2A, almost 3 questions directly related to Trump have been asked. Questions like USA exit from WHO, and what will be the implications? Ab aap imagine karo, you have to write this question in 15 marks. You know it and I know it, USA has exited from WHO. But will we be able to write a 15 marker on it? Let us be very honest on that. There are very specific questions on democratic backsliding and democratic backlash. ये दोनों terms लिखो कहीं पे. Take 30 seconds, 15 seconds. Try to think whether you have seen these terms anywhere or any idea what these terms can be. The terms I have mentioned for the people online as well, I'm writing it here. Again, a question of 2025 paper 2. 10-15 seconds take. Try to answer what this would mean. Okay, the people who are watching this, try to be participative. I don't want this to be a sermon, one-sided sermon. If you're able to think of even one example each, I'll be happy to know. You want to answer? Only for, you give answer only for backsliding. Good. PDM, okay, very good, very good, very good. Anybody else? Any idea? No idea? Up? कुछ समझ में आ रहा है? Backlash, you know what is backlash? English. Something is backfiring. So why would things backfire? Do you see protests happening globally? If something undemocratic is being happening, people can protest. Okay? So here both these two terms have meaning. I would want you to explore this in more detail. But the point is, the backsliding means, for example, there is a rise of authoritarian leaders. And I've seen this, of course, this has happened not just in South Asia, Europe, okay, North, South America, various places. If there is a rise of authoritarian leaders, what these people will do? They many times jail the opposition leaders. Okay? So democracy is appearing to be from the outside. Okay? But in reality, the elections, they can be rigged. And all of this, there is a popular VDEM institution, it talks out a report, it says democracy is in decline. There's a decline of democracy that is happening. Okay? But what is backlash? Now the backlash can come from many cases. Very obvious example is, let's say you have people. Do we see the rise of Gen Z movement? And I'm asking of Gen Z movement globally. See, you already have a cockroach Janata Party. Okay? Same revolution happened in Nepal. But beyond that, in South Asia and in global areas, we see a rise of Gen Z movement, which is characterized by things like, it is known as digital activism. Right? Now, this same topic, I see it in another area of PSIR paper. New social movements. It is a backlash, right? The grievances around the words are common. The triggers are very different. In Nepal, the trigger could have been the social media ban. In some other country, let's say there was a popular scandal. So trigger are different, but the expression of discontent is almost universal. This is one way people are backlash. The backlash can also be, if you remember, how many of you know Marine Le Pen? Naam suna hai? France leader, I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Now, her candidature right now, and again, these kind of examples we see in our classes, and I'll tell you how do we do that. Do you see this article? France far right leader awaits court verdict. Now, what has happened? The court has barred her from contesting elections. Court means the judiciary. Now, she is a popular leader. Now, the people are saying, why is the judiciary interfering in the process? And the people are backlashing against the judiciary also. Right? Now, you know judiciary. Is the judiciary elected or unelected? It is unelected. And if you think of the criticism of basic structure or any of the judicial interventions in India also, uske liye we use a term, we say this is referred to as, how many of you have read this phrase or heard this phrase? Tyranny of the unelected. And I can give you many such examples of what is happening globally, how things are different. So my point is, we need to know the trends that are there very clearly. That should be very clear in your mind. And this is just one thing that has come in the exam. Now, this by no means, I'm trying to say that this is again what is going to reappear. But if I know the trends globally, the depthness of my answer is better. In paper 2, and again, please know the expectation, you all who are writing the exam with PSIR, the examiner is expecting you to have graduate level, good level of knowledge, and also having a global perspective. In my experience, what I've seen is, especially in paper 2A and 2B, your knowledge also is limited. You've not had, maybe the sources were not enough, okay? Or perhaps people are very much reliant. He said, I am waiting for the monthly magazine to cover my IR current affairs, okay? Or sir, yearly compilation. There are people who are writing mains this year, and who will ask for, sir, what is the yearly compilation? The point is the differentiation is very limited in that. And that is why you have to know, in your paper, the moment I will say current affairs, I will mean three things: coverage of 2B, coverage of 2A, and even coverage of 1B. And don't be surprised in 2026 if you see 4 or 5 or 6 questions in 1B inspired from current affairs. We have had 50 years of national emergency. 50. Kab aayi thi emergency? From 1975 to 77. Again, a very high chance of this getting appeared. You know this act, PESA. Suna humne? When this act had come? 1996. 30 years of PESA. Forest Rights Act 2006. How many years? At least 20 years. So there are some landmark events that can be a current affairs question. Okay. Any intervention by the court, anything that is substantial, that can be a question. Okay. So my point is, you have to also know, because see, you will be able to best utilize the course when you also know your problem. I can help you diagnose that, but I want to know very honestly, where do you people stand? In fact, when I end the class, I'll give you a small set of homework to be done. Okay. So that the better we diagnose our problem, the better our approach can be. So 2 problems I've identified so far: not having proper notes for revision. Second is, there can be a section ki problem hai, or there's a paper problem. And if you're not able to bridge this, your marks will plateau. Okay. Even this year, even there was a relatively conservative marking in PSIR. Let's be honest about it. Okay. But people have scored 270 to 290 range. The people have got good marks. Right. So at least my benchmark for 2025, anybody who's given the exam, if you are scoring less than 255, 260, there is a scope of improvement that is needed. Again, I'm not comparing it to 310, 320. This year, the highest that we have seen is somewhere close to 290. So we have to manage our expectations accordingly. But this does not mean the same thing will repeat next year. Marks happens in cycles, and you don't need to be worried about your optional, because if something happens to PSR, the same thing would also happen to socio, same thing happens to anthro. UPSC has a method of normalizing and scaling your optionals. Okay, and whenever these things, because this debate always happens in Telegram groups and with your friends, I will give you one example. The most unusual year, see, 2018 में UPSC gave very high marks to humanities optionals. Okay, PSIR also got 310, 315. The very next year, 2019, I think many of you know, AIR 6, she had PSIR as her optional. In fact, she has the distinction of having 160 odd marks in ethics paper of GS4, highest ever. Her score in PSIR that year when she got rank 6, I think it was close to 240, both papers combined. And this is one of the years when optional in general humanities did not do as well. So our point is, you have to be relative उस साल में आपके marks कैसे हैं. Okay, if the topper is scoring less, if you're in that bracket range, no issues. Right? So that is why when we calibrate, when we set our expectations, the expectations cannot be absolute. The point is you have to fulfill the demand, then there is some variation that will be there every year. We have to acknowledge that. The point is, yes, if we have written well, we should expect our marks in a good range. Is that clear? One is this problem. Now, if I break this problem further down, the problem that I often see is the current affairs integration problem. Okay. By now, there are some people who would have done maybe a foundation in 2022, 23, 24, whatever the year is, even in 2025. But they have not very thoroughly covered the current affairs aspect of it. Okay. And that slowly and steadily, I'll tell you, becomes a huge challenge. PSIR is one of those optionals, you take it out of your love for paper 2 generally. Aap bolte ho, sir, I read so much of IR, I love that my optional. But the point is, that level of current affairs integration, as per the demand of the paper, does not happen much. Okay, so for that you have to take this as your task. ये हमें करना ही पड़ेगा. Okay, and when I say current affairs integration is a continuous process. I will take classes of current affairs. I'll make sure whatever we do is. How many of you have seen my current affairs class? कोई देखी है अभी तक? अभी नहीं देखी है, ठीक है? There is actually one class that is already on YouTube. That was current affairs lecture 1. My method of covering current affairs is very diverse in the sense I take up news articles, but I don't cover news articles. I cover the theme that is important for that news article. For example, how many of you are aware that USA has started the testing of nuclear weapons? This is very recent news. Now, examiner will ask you a question on nuclear proliferation. Nuclear proliferation is a proper topic mentioned in our syllabus. So the question can be that the recent nuclear testing of US has wide-ranging implications for the global nuclear order. Comment on the effectiveness of nuclear proliferation regime. Something on this sort. Now, the inspiration of this question was a current affairs, but in this question, you have to go into the depth, you have to go into analysis of it, which means I may have to talk about Thomas Schelling or Scott Sagan or Nina Tannenwald. These are some prominent scholars. If you've read your optional yoga, in any case, in my current affairs classes, I also update you on the theoretical aspect of it. Okay, this is one issue. Next issue then comes in, and this is an issue I think will be the biggest pain point among the people, is the issue of answer writing. Okay, and when I say answer writing, people, at least I've seen, they put more efforts in GS. In GS, there are dedicated programs. Okay, a lot of guidance, etc. is there. Optional mein answer writing becomes very problematic. Okay, and also we know that this is a humanities optional. There is no one set template. Optional mein 5 people will write an answer on Marxism. 5 of them can have their own approach. So the point is how to do that. Maybe that can be an issue. Second is how to do it effectively. But the most important issue, how to do it consistently. तीनों में difference है. One is how to do it. I know how to do it, let's say. But am I doing it effectively or not? Am I ticking all the boxes? Am I adding criticism wherever it is needed? Do I have important keywords in my answer? If you write a generic answer, expect generic marks. Okay. And lastly is a very important aspect, is the consistency part of it. Okay. Normally when you see your exam, ki, acha sir, exam will now happen in August of 2027. Normally we are very relaxed. Okay. But too much of relaxation will also be very harmful for you. Practically speaking, from July to December is your main time to do the hard work. Okay, given the uncertainties around prelims, people even last year and I will say this year, keeping both CSAT in mind, people will have a buffer. I will have to give this much time that to for my optional. Okay, in between any other state exam may come up. Okay, for example, BPSC is supposed to happen very shortly, RAS, UPPCS, in between perhaps EPFO. There are many exams that will come. And of course, people will prioritize your exams also because you have to maximize your chances for selection anywhere at least. Okay, so my point is we have to be very clear with our timelines. Okay, if you're thinking or if you've joined the course, our idea is to get maximum benefit out of it. For that, and that is why we know we have to understand what are the pain points that you can have. Okay, you may not have short notes, there can be a section problem, current affairs integration, answer writing. Any other problem that you would face apart from this, I want to know from you. Abhishek, any problem you want to point out other than this? Out of the box questions, okay. Correct, okay. Putting a star mark, so one issue. Any other question? People online? How to? How to interlink thinkers? Any other question apart from this? एक आप भी कर लो, दो लोगों ने बोल दिया है. Revision, how to plan your revisions? Anything you want to add on to this? Same thing, your friend also already pointed out how to do revision of it. Okay. I think more or less these are the questions that you have. Okay, one by one I'll address them. In fact, I will also add a couple of questions from my side. If I were you, I would have also asked this question. These are specific questions, but what about more general questions? Questions like this. How to ensure motivation for the next 6 months or so. Okay. Second, now I will ask you, how do I make sure that you write tests on stipulated time, or if not on stipulated time, the test series is flexible, but at least how to cover all of this? That should be a question, because I'll show you the schedule. The schedule, when you see the schedule, it looks perfect. Everything gets sorted. But when you start to implement it, sir, GS class is pending. I have to go to my home, 5 days here. Ajay, sir, I'll miss this test. I'll write 1 week later. Slowly, slowly, slowly. The test that should have been done in 1 month now have taken 3 months. Now you're thinking, array, I'm now stuck. This is a problem that happens, right? Practical problems that we face in any tests or any program. One by one, I'll start. First is out of the box question. See, out of the box question, if you've given this year's prelims, you know, out of the box, choda, the whole box was out. Okay. So the point is, sometimes the examiner will give you a shock. This year, paper 2, again, I'll ask you later on to do the homework. There will be such questions like this that will be, and this question, by the way, had to be done. This was a 10 marker. You could have not skipped that question. So number 1, A, is whatever you know around the topic, express it. In fact, I'll tell you one more thing. This year, in fact, 2025, I had 3 students. One of them also got selected. One of them already is an IRS. 2 of them have scored more than 280 marks, and both of them have more than 145 marks in paper 2. One of them has 135 marks in paper 2. The common concern with all the 3 were that the paper 2 this year feels very difficult. Okay, almost on the verge of crying. So this year, लगता है कुछ नहीं होने वाला. Okay, but the point is, people got 145 marks. ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? They will be scaling. There will be relative marking. Even in out of the box question, let's say this is a red lipstick movement. Can I connect it to feminist movement? At least can I write a basic answer on the demands of feminist movement? Okay, I agree this will not be very technical and very precise. But out of 10, the examiner will be forced to give you 3.5 or 4 marks, if not 5 marks. So that differential of 1 mark should not bother me. Okay, you can also say 2 years back there was a question. ये सुना है नाम किसी ने कभी? What is this? Any idea? Which topic of this part syllabus? Anti-Iraq movement. Any idea? तुक्का मारिए चलिए. Is it related to Israel or is it related to Iran? 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 The answer is neither. This is an anti-liquor movement which happened in India led by women. Okay, this is something you also do in GS1. Sometimes if I ask you a question, either or, the answer may be neither also. Okay? This is a women movement, but this was asked in paper 1B. Many people just from the thing did not know this question. These questions, again, I'll tell you, are not the deciding questions. This happens in GS also. In GS3, sometime back, they asked you what is Bose-Einstein condensate? And second part is how is it relevant in physics? Yeah, in our understanding of life. So part 1 mein, sabne choda. Part 2 mein they wrote, this will help me understanding the standard model of physics, some generic points, at least they will get 2 marks out of it. So my point is, if you are able to connect it to any theme, write it. But this should not break your psyche. It should not lower your confidence down. Okay. Because if a paper is difficult, you just have to perform better and express better than the others. You will be rewarded better in marks. And here also, don't think of PSIR also. There are toppers in geography. Last year, economics, mein you see topper videos. Paper 2, there also was very difficult. People have left 50, 60, 70 marks of the paper and yet have scored 145, 150 marks. Kaise aaye honge? Because the paper was tough for everybody. So out of the box, and sometimes what happens, we are so fixated कि ये सवाल मुझसे नहीं बन रहा. I don't know this question. And because of that, the psychological impact is you feel underconfident in other areas also. Last year, again, paper 2A was tough, but I'll say paper 2B, anybody who has followed current affairs, from any source, it was very doable in nature. So that means your choice of questions mattered a lot. If you are forced to choose questions, 2 questions from 2A, आपके marks नहीं आएंगे ज़्यादा. क्यों? Questions were difficult. They've asked you ASEAN plus 3. ASEAN plus 3 is a current affairs topic almost 6 years back. Right? How many of you have heard Dr. S. Jaishankar's speech about phases of Indian foreign policy? उन्होंने 6 phases बताए हैं. This speech he gave in 2019. Okay? And the question was asked in 2025, mentioning his name, Dr. S. Jaishankar, and the phases of Indian foreign policy. Now, if you see my lecture of GS or PSIR, whenever I start Indian foreign policy, I start with these 6 phases. That is my way of doing it. Okay. So, although I agree, if you have not covered it very specifically, you will find that question. It's a 20 marker. आपको difficult लगेगा वो सवाल. If you don't know, because it's a factual question also, na? They're not asking you just phases of foreign policy. They're asking you Dr. S. Jaishankar's phases of foreign policy. And there are 6 phases. Anybody who remembers it here right now? नहीं सुना? So he talks about from 1947 to 62. The phase of, that was moral, optimistic phase. Okay? And then from 62 to 71, there was a slightly realist outlook. Okay? Then there was consolidation, right? Slowly, steadily. So there are 6 phases that are talked about. Okay? You can see that later also. So my point is, out of the box questions are there, but should not be troubling you. How to interlink thinkers? Very important question. And here the point is, the more you see the classes, revise, and the more you write it. For example, whenever I talk to you about Indian national movement, you know, आपने सुना होगा the Dalit perspective of Indian national movement. We talk about Jyotiba Phule. We talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. अब उसमें how can I link it? In that I tell you, linking the Gramscian perspective. Gramsci speaks about organic and traditional intellectuals. Gramsci talks about war of position, war of maneuver. Those points can be brought here to write the answer. Okay? And this is not just here. Again, in democracy, whatever I write in paper 1A can also be linked to paper 2A. Democracy is a topic in that case. Okay? If I'm talking of Marx in paper 1A, Marxist perspective is also in paper 1B, in also paper 2A. Right? We know Thomas Piketty is known as the modern Marx. His book Capital in the 21st Century. Now this you will get better the more you revise it. Okay. In fact, in 5 or 10 minutes from now, I'll tell you how is our approach in doing this. Okay. You get a fair idea of how this is to be done. Okay. Then this is a very important aspect, how do we do the revision? And this is generally an issue, be it GS, be it CSAT, anything. For a student, everybody knows revision is important, right? But everybody ignores revision, that is also very important, right? Or ignore se zyada kya hota hai, your schedule is so packed, sometimes you ignore it, but when the exam comes near, then you revise, are yaar, yaad hi nahi aa raha hai. I've done so much, but I'm not able to recall the important points. Is that a challenge? Okay. For that, the schedule, your schedule is designed in such a manner that we have put very limited things in a before a test. So first I'll show the schedule, and with that you will get an idea. In fact, the people who are watching this online and who are yet to join, just to give you an idea, if you go to Sunya IAS, this is the website. Go to optional 300 plus. Find out your optional if you are doing PSIR 300 plus enrichment. यहाँ पे course planner है, आप इस पे click करेंगे, and then you will see the planner. Fine. Now, today is 6th July. We are having an orientation right now. Okay. And now if you see, from 6th to 18th, 18th को आपका पहला test है. In the test, you will have IPT and WPT. And IPT lecture, the mention is marathon, it's a long lecture, okay, because I cover all the 9 thinkers. Similarly, WPT will be a long lecture, but that you can easily cover. Maybe this lecture you can cover in 2 days, 4 hours, something like this. Similarly, you can do this. Now your entire time is free. There will be a PSIR current affairs session that will be there in your portal. You have to do this. अब इस बीच में हमें करना क्या है? What do I have to do in this time? Now, for every topic static, you will be getting a handout from my side. Okay. Now, how to go about it? If you see the handout is structured in a manner. Every topic's PYQ of last 10 years are there. Okay. Let's say Dharm Shastra. Okay. 1 second. Dharm Shastra mein state, king, Rajan, governance, the criticism, the legacy, in a very structured manner points are mentioned. Okay. Same if I talk about Arth Shastra. What is the introduction? And this is the format in which I'll take the class. Okay. Influences, book and quotes. Wherever there is space, you will be writing it in this paper. Okay. Corruption, statecraft, Kautilya. Kautilya versus Machiavelli, a question that has been many a times asked. Okay. Criticism even of Arthashastra, the legacy of Arthashastra, that is the relevance of it. So the point is, you will open the lecture, you take this printout, okay. Keep some handy A4 sheets, because sometimes what happens, some people have very small font, they can fill in here. Some people use digital notes, they are able to expand and compress it, they can also do that. Okay. But if you write normally, you may not be able to fill everything here. For that, keep some A4 sheets handy. Our idea is, for example, here, pura ka pura IPT, I have covered in 12 pages. Let's say you add more A4 sheets, 20 odd pages pura cover ho jayega aapka from the lecture itself. Okay. So the flow that I want to emphasize is, and with flow, I'll tell you the revision. Your number 1 step, regardless, you have to follow the lecture. You have followed the lecture. Make summary, which means the lecture itself will tell you, I will be dictating some parts, I'll be writing some parts. There is maybe some question I'm doing on the class itself. You have to be very active and try to absorb these things. Now, your job does not end here. Most of you who have already done your foundation, you're referring any other notes. This part is very important. Okay. Ab yahan pe you will do the taking this your lecture as a base, because now you've seen the entire lecture, your memory is very fresh on that topic. Let's say many people struggle with M.N. Roy or Aurobindo Ghosh. You've done it from the class. Everything conceptual that you need to know, you've done it. Okay. If you have any foundation notes, quickly skim through it. Foundation mein you've spent more than 8 months, in some cases even 1 year. Okay. So I don't want your effort that you've put even in past to go waste. What should I have is for that topic, I followed the recent source is, let's say, my source. In dono ko integrate karke, I will finalize my summary. That is why you have been given gap days. The moment you have it in your hand, you will feel very confident. I don't have to go beyond this. And for the topics we are doing, in most of the cases, you will not have to go beyond the things that we are doing. This thing you have to do. Which is why I'm not saying कि जो भी पहले पढ़ रखा है, ignore करो, फेंको, कुछ हो, नहीं, that will be used. Okay, so the crash course you have done, okay, the class let's say you've done, and follow it up with this. And for that, I am expecting you to have a dedicated schedule. कि सोचो every day 3 to 4 hours, every day will have to go to my optional. On 5 or 6 days, I'll be doing this. And on some days, I'll be writing also. Till here, are we clear? Okay. Because if you follow, for example, like I say, let's say, IPT, I was discussing with you IPT, okay? And you can follow the lecture. This is the lecture, the long class that I've taken, almost 9.5 hours in one go. Now, here the lecture is also in the format. So there are some questions I'll be discussing, points I'll be writing in between. So you're expected to cover these aspects, okay? And everything, whatever thinker is mentioned, will be done in a comprehensive manner. So आप करोगे अच्छे से इसको, follow करोगे. And the reason is many times people say, कि sir, we are not able to write a test because we lack content, even after doing foundation. The idea of giving you all of this extra is to make sure आपके पास कोई inertia और excuse नहीं रहेगा फिर. Because if you say I don't have content, video is already there. Practice questions are already there. Then why are you procrastinating? Revise karo, likho. This part is there. Now, very important part is this. Now, if you have seen the handout, many people also have, ki sir, what should I do about the PYQs? Okay, after the class. First of all, the class is built around the PYQs. You'll be able to answer most of the PYQs. Jesse M.N. Roy. M.N. Roy, in these many years, only 3 questions have been asked. One is comment on Marxist and radical humanist phase, ideational journey, and major components. Okay. You will have a separate copy known as PYQ structuring. Okay. Now you will write first question. I don't want you to write the entire answer of it. Just structure the answer. What is the meaning of structuring? Can anybody explain this to me? How do I structure an answer? Only the skeleton, which means, acha, in this question I will have an introduction. Only the keywords, 1 or 2 keywords I'll drop, which means if I just see that skeleton or structure, I will be able to replicate a good answer. Right? This, if you do it alongside, and after just maybe one test, you will see a huge confidence improvement. And in any question, let's say, chalo, yahan pe kam questions hain. If I go to, 1 second, I think, Dr. Ambedkar, okay, around 6 questions I am able to see, and these questions are chronologically arranged. The most recent question is first, and last mein sabse old question hai. Let's say question at discuss Ambedkar's idea of annihilation of caste. Already we have done it in the class, but still, if you have a problem, okay, you write a structure. That structure photo you send it to me, and we can discuss how this can be further improved. ये अगर आपने कर लिया, I am telling you, major battle and major victory is done on your part. This is done. So again, and see, these things require time on your side. Normally what is done, you are passively doing foundation lectures. You're not very active with your mind. You've done the lecture, right? ये हो गया, PYQ structuring कर ली. And here anything, I'm writing with red. Any question you face a problem should be sent to me. But I will respond only if I see you have put in effort. सीधे क्वेश्चन उठा के भेजोगे, I don't encourage spoon feeding. I will ask you what are you thinking. It can be a quote based question. आपको कुछ भी समझ नहीं आ रहा, आप गलत लिख के भेजिए. So I think this is to be done, this. I'll tell you, no, these are the wrong steps. This is going to be a game changer after you've done this. Many students directly jump to PYQ structuring. अगर बेस ही नहीं है, चीजें summarize नहीं करी है effective manner में, you feel stuck. And you will have to keep the handouts handy with you. Okay? अब है ये. The course, many people ask us, the course is named PSIR 300 plus. What is the meaning of 300 plus? For every topic that you do with us, okay, let's say IPT, WPT, you will be getting 2 PDFs. One PDF में सिर्फ questions होते हैं, practice. and one PDF has model answers of that. Okay, this part of course it's practice, this is not evaluated. जो टेस्ट है वो प्रॉपर इवेलुएट होता है, जिसका डिस्कशन होगा. बट व्हाई इज दिस? आफ्टर दिस मच ऑफ हार्ड वर्क, let's say 1 or 2 or 3 days before a test, quickly go through practice questions. If the practice question is directly like a PYQ, read its model answer. If it is not, again do the structuring of it. That is why I share blank sheets with the question, again for you to put effort. And again, if you're noticing, all of this is effort. ऐसा नहीं है हलवा that optional कि आपने वीडियो देखा आगे बढ़ गए. If you're only joining only to see the video, again I'm not saying it is not going to be of much benefit. And here we are talking of 500 marks, and there should be a systematic plan. I focus a lot on the process. If this process you are doing, you will only say, sir, isse zyada main kya karunga, and isse zyada pe you will get maximum marks from this only. After all of this is done, so again remember, for me this is practice. The last thing, the test that you give in the schedule, this is for me known as, many times you give a test series, you say, sir, marks nahi aa rahe test series mein, I'm stuck in 50, 60, 70 marks. My question is not ki what did you write in the test. No, I will ask you what did you do before the test. Jitni achhi mehnat kari hogi, aur ye aap correlation you'll be able to find out. If in a test you are getting good marks, and in a test you're not getting good marks, generally you will see the test where you have put in a lot of effort, you will get very good marks out of it. Okay, ye hota hi hai. Our results in life are a reflection of how much we have put in. Okay, for this all we are giving you gap, and the schedule is in such a manner. If you now see the schedule, because there are people I know, wo isko ek din mein kar lenge, isko ek din mein kar lenge, and then they say, sir, so much of time is spare, what will I do? I am feeling very bored. Other things also you have to do. That is the intellectual work. And sometimes we escape from intellectual work. Okay? The current affairs session have to be done parallelly. You have to make a separate notebook of it. And after a few classes, generally the feedback that I'm getting is you will really love these sessions. And the moment mains ends, then all the relevant current affairs sessions will be happening offline with the people who have joined PSI 300. Okay, in fact 2026 paper I do the analysis and the live brainstorming with the people in the class itself. जिस दिन होगा optional का paper, उसी दिन paper 1 हम साथ में करेंगे आके, और paper 2 उसके अगले दिन करेंगे. This is a practice I always have. Okay, similarly these sessions just after main sense, because right now the classes that you have are the same classes that the people of mains 2026 are also having. So that is common part. The moment their batch, or at least my burden is less, then our offline interactions will increase. In fact, some lectures which you already have in your portal, I may revisit it again in the offline format. So even that can be done. Okay, are we clear on the schedule part of it and my expectation out of it? Right? So that means, and in fact today's orientation, but I'll ask the team to upload these 2 lectures aaj hi, today only. Although it is here, but at least Monday onwards you can utilize your time accordingly. Okay, gap is there because I think somebody will see it today, somebody joins tomorrow, somebody joins day after tomorrow. But the people who have already joined it, you can have an edge. Why waste Monday and Tuesday? अब सीधे यहाँ से शुरू कर लो, because you know the crux of it, right? This is something that is to be done again and again, and the schedule is comfortable. I'm telling you. Normally test series में हर चीज क्रैम कर दी जाती है, इतने टेस्ट होते हैं. I'm telling you very honestly, you're not able to write it, आपका confidence टूट जाता है. Okay? Now, when you do this, till now I have not told you. And I have told you this is going to do. Iske beyond, the moment you give your first test, each test is followed by a test discussion. And my discussions are very different. My classes, these are more from content and enrichment point of view. My test discussion is from the point of view how to write answers in PSIR. How to integrate theory in this question. So those classes are not Gyan based. The Gyan part I am delivering here. The knowledge part. These classes are very practical test discussions. Okay, so the test discussions, after you've done the test, you do that, post your copy, gets checked. You can also have a discussion with me. Okay, all these one-on-ones, maybe till July I may not be immediately able to have you because of some time constraints, but after that till December you will find a constant touch. And when I say one-on-one, so isme the discussion one-on-one only I will take. Okay, with you, for example. So here, this is a place where a lot of transformation actually happens. And in fact, out of the 14 tests, I see if a student has been consistent in the first 4 or 5 tests, उसके बाद उनकी गाड़ी अपने आप, the whole thing they are able to plan themselves only. Because initial time में there's a high chance of distraction, demotivation. If you are able to balance yourself for the initial part, you will yourself be able to understand it. So now tests are there. Again, there'll be revision test. For example, paper 1 पूरा पढ़ा आपने, and then a proper revision test to again consolidate all these things. And at the back of your mind, no tension as such ki sir, what about current affairs? Current affairs, already every week you will get a class of current affairs. Okay, and the moment mains ends, mains यहाँ पे खत्म होगा, उसके बाद जो भी current affairs updations होंगे, I will ask you and we will be notifying. There will be proper offline classes for current affairs also, which means more participative, more interactive. Now, if you followed the schedule, etc., the feedback, if you are in Delhi, you can come visit the office, notify me in advance. This can also be done. On call, it can also be done. If possible, prefer it offline, face to face. Then you have more chances of asking. Okay. Plus, it also breaks your monotony. Jab you are in Delhi, if you want to take the input. However, if schedule nahi ho yahan pe, tab to of course option rahega. You can also discuss these points. That is one part. ठीक है? Now, in addition to this, I hope the flow is very clear to all of you. Okay. अब ये please write it in your copy. There is some things I want to give you. See, our interaction will always be with some homework, some assignment, okay, back and forth. Even the classes that you will do, you will have things. My way to judge your level of commitment is how thorough are you with this, okay? So, सबसे पहला homework आपका क्या रहेगा? Today you have seen the orientation. First is, and this you should spend time, because if you've listened to the orientation carefully, this you can do. You can directly drop a YouTube comment. What did you understand from the orientation? आपको खुद क्या समझ में आया? What is your takeaway? Our learnings are different, right? How receptive were we? First is this. Second, anybody who is going to join this program, there is one thing I always focus on. You have to see these 2 videos of mine. You take your time, but I will expect the reply in this format. You've done the takeaway. You have understood that. You know what is takeaway? When you order food in a restaurant, they will say dine or takeaway. Takeaway is what? Takeaway for you is what has stayed with you in this entire session or interaction that we've done. We're almost close to 1 hour of discussing. ये आपको करना है. And this will also open up your mind. And my idea is, whenever you watch any session, PYQ कुछ है, हमेशा do it with a pen and paper. Okay? Because we are not doing a time pass. Anything that stands out. And again, I'm not saying every word, sir, whatever you're saying, pause, every word I'm writing. That is also not needed. But the core essence that I'm getting, this will align you to the paper and the demand of it. Otherwise, it is very easy for me to say, paper is very easy, this can be done, this can be done. We have to acknowledge the difficulty of the paper. And in that difficulty, we have to perform our best. Okay, as your teacher, I have to make sure if we know what the exam is going to throw at us. If the current affairs questions are very diverse, only the PYQ will tell you it is very diverse. No harm in not accepting it. Which means our preparation strategy should be in this manner. Okay, this is something that you have to do. Okay. Third is, I always end my orientation lectures in general by giving you certain terminologies. Okay, so 6 or 7 I will have in my mind. Abhi I'll make you just tell these terms and you are expected to write it in 2 or 3 words. Okay, start करो लिखना terms को, वो आप लिख के लाओगे, या you write it and just share as a PDF to me. पहला लिखो democratic backsliding first. So here you will write the definition and write a couple of examples of it. Second, democratic backlash. Third, लिखो anti-Iraq movement. Any example that I have given today, plus some extra I'll ask you to write. Anti-Iraq movement. Next, लिखो red lipstick movement. Red lipstick movement, right? Constitutional punctuality. Constitutional punctuality. Next, right? Anarcho-capitalism. Next, right? Abhi, how many terms have we seen written? 6. Okay, I'll give you 4 more. Likho. Legitimation crisis. Any idea who gave this? Habermas. Habermas actually recently passed away. Okay. Legitimation. We write it like this. Next, likho G2. Suna hai? What is G2? We write G2 as this. Yes, very good. But sirf US channel, I want you to write in a proper sense. Use GPT, use AI, but try to write it in your own diary. G2 and दूसरा लिखेंगे very important term in the recent times. Thucydides trap. सुना है? Very recently in the US China summit which happened in May 2026, Xi Jinping used this term in the context of Taiwan and spoke about this term. Okay, so we should be aware of what this means. Thucydides trap. Okay, how many terms have we seen abhi? कितने हो गए? 8. Next लिखो environmentalism of the poor. Environmentalism of the poor. Okay. Till here, you have to write these terms. Okay. 4th is, I'm just giving you a very simple question. Okay. Very simple question to think about. Okay. And here you try to write it whatever you know. For this question, don't use any help. Howsoever honest you are, I just simply want to know. Okay. लिखो क्वेश्चन लिखो. देखो the current world order is facing multiple shifts and challenges. What have you written? The current world order is facing multiple shifts and challenges. Okay. This is a very simple separate question. इसी में नीचे लिखो. This is the second question. Answer in bullet points, whatever you want. Simple. Okay. Next लिखो. Comment on the instability in India's neighborhood. Comment on instability in India's neighborhood. And what can India do about it? Simple. What can India do about it? Okay? This will help you at least put things in a snapshot, and don't worry about the quality of what you write. Simple sa benchmark hai, likhenge, and I will make sure throughout our course we focus a lot on this. इसके लिए हम अलग से copies बनाते हैं, right? Simple compilation होगा, but compilation if I give you directly, you will not be able to digest it. It has to be done topic by topic, one step at a time. So I want, because see, long-term memory always takes time. किसी के लिए भी हो. Short term में, let's say somebody is giving the mains, I give them a 50-page handout. Okay, हो सकता है याद हो on the spot. Maybe they are able to remember some of it. For you people, we are going to spread our time. Our target is till December. All this hard work has to be completed. Okay, this is a homework. Now, how would you be submitting it? You will mention your name, mention your batch, because this homework is specifically for your batch, that is 6th July, and in this format. Okay, whatever your takeaway is, you can drop it as a comment in the YouTube. This is a video in YouTube going on. PYQ जब कर लोगे तो आप you will mention PYQs have been done, that video you have completed. Terminologies में preferably in 1 or 2 pages. For every terminology 2 or 3 lines, any example, the scholars, you can complete it. And other 2 things are half a page, 1 page, whatever you want to write. Challenges, Indian neighborhood in a turmoil. That is what is to be done. ठीक है? This is to be done. Okay. इसमें थोड़ा सा time लग जाएगा, but that time will be well worth it. So my expectation is you spend today's time in doing all of this. Now, another homework, and this is not a homework immediate, is something that many of you ask, sir, what is to be done for current affairs, right? This advice I also give for foundation students, anybody who meets me, even for the people watching online, even if you don't join the course, this is something you should do at your own end. The classes are complementary, but this part is not supplementary, right? वो क्या है? Editorials की reading habit बनाओ. If you have been reading it, excellent. I'll tell you what is to be done. What newspapers you people read? आप पढ़ते हो या नहीं पढ़ते हो? Which one? Hindu? Indian Express? ठीक है. Now, it can be Indian Express. It can be Hindu. Some of you are even more advanced. तो आप कहोगे, sir, we read ORF, for example, or some magazine. कुछ भी हो सकता है. My point is, editorials have to be done. How? I'll tell you. Ideally, daily. Now, there can be some days, back to back, same news article har din aa raha hai. That same essence is coming. Okay? If not daily, you do it weekly. No issue as such. The backlog से problem नहीं होती है. Problem होती है how we tackle the backlog. If you don't have a plan for backlog, then you feel a lot of stress. Okay? For example, sometimes when I'm busy in my classes, I have to complete backlogs of 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks at one go. But I know my process, I know my system, I know how to do that. Same thing if you get that confidence. Now, how is this to be done? When I'm saying editorials, preferably I'm asking you to do editorials related to PSIR, which means या तो 1B का होगा या anything related to it. Now, let's say you get a very good article, maybe somebody's writing on Locke, Adam Smith. Abhi Adam Smith, recently how many years of Adam Smith had passed away, right? So there were some good articles on his books. If you just have an idea about it, you can still write a very good answer on classical liberalism. Okay? ये जब आपने पढ़ा, I'm asking you to read it. Okay? Second, weekly, only the essence, important. So for example, in this week, today is Monday. Monday से लेकर Sunday तक, I'm not asking you to keep a tab of 10 editorials that you read. वो नहीं चाहिए. उस पूरे week में, let's say, the Iran-Israel conflict has appeared 4 times. मेरे लिए वो एक topic हुआ. In that week, there was one topic in news. Maybe there was something else in the news. Maybe governor was asked. Okay? And only limited to the newspaper you were reading it. So that means this hardly 2 or 3 lines that will take. First is you have to do this. You have to maintain a weekly outline. Second, the most important thing is from those articles, I want you to extract keywords or phrases. So I'm not asking you to summarize those articles. I'm asking you to read them, okay, and keep a list of it. What does it mean? Let's say there's an article on China, and C. Raja Mohan or anybody writes a term Middle Kingdom complex in that. मैंने article का title लिखा और मैंने सिर्फ एक keyword लिख दिया Middle Kingdom complex. If there is any phrase, let's say the Asian century, something that is good, which I think अरे यार ये तो काम की चीज है. If there's a very good line, 2 lines of conclusion, I am just making this a repository. Now, when you make this, please keep in mind whether you will be able to replicate it or not. Sometimes you get a good quote, but अगर 4 या 5 line का quote है, be honest with yourself, you will not be able to write it. We have very limited time. So चीजें हमें, and this is where your knowledge and your filtration is there. If you just simply copy paste and dump, अब यहाँ पे अगर कोई ऐसा है कि sir, I will now be even more ambitious. My friend is reading Hindu, I will read Hindu and Indian Express. Plus you said ORF, I will also read ORF. फिर तो खत्म ही नहीं होने वाला ये काम. इसीलिए I have said or, and I am not asking you to read daily, if possible weekly. Weekly में मैं सही बताऊं, if you filter carefully, काम के 2 ही 3 आर्टिकल होंगे, and things repeat a lot. I am not asking you to write repetitive things. What I am expecting you to write is anything which stands out. ये जो चीज है, a lot of toppers do it for optional, a lot of toppers do it for essay. With essay आप देखोगे लास्ट में कोई टॉपर शेयर करेगा, इतने रिच एनेक्डोट्स हैं, इतने रिच कंपैरिजन, हार्डली 15-20 पेजेस, and they would have memorized it and they would have dropped it in their answer copy. Ultimate test पता है क्या है? आप कितने भी अच्छे नोट्स बनाओ, whatever good you make, if the same thing is not translating to your copy, there is no use of it. Be brutally honest about it. Okay, and this is a point I will tell you 10 times when we discuss one-on-one or through our discussions. You would have written very good articles, very good points in your notes. The reality of it is most people are not able to replicate that in the answer copy. So हमारा method ऐसा होना चाहिए, without adding any burden to ourselves, how much are we able to replicate it? Now, why am I asking you this to be done even though I'm taking current affairs classes with you? Any idea? देखो, current affairs classes will cover all the important topics in news, okay? But this is something that give you an extra edge. See, PSIR needs vocabulary. It needs certain language. How do I learn a language? If I want to learn French, I'll have to see French movies. I'll have to see French people interacting. Same चीज यहाँ पे भी है. The people who are going to write, be it Hindu, any newspaper that you read about, their language is more precise. Some of you are engineers. Some of you have not had any writing practice, and some of you can be both. Engineers भी है और writing practice भी नहीं है. अब क्या है, आप ये भी कह सकते हो, सर इंजीनियर है इसलिए राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस नहीं है. It can be any of these aspects. This will help you bridge that gap. Second is the indirect benefit of it. Your reading comprehension, passages, आप notice करना, अगर आप लगातार 4 महीने, if you read editorials, solve the reading comprehension, you will feel better accuracy in that. Indirect benefit is CSAT. Direct benefit is your optional and the GS part that you are dealing with. But here, if too much of excess time, because the problem sometimes is, IR लगता है इतना अच्छा है, आपको sir this is also there, but sir I follow 15 other podcasts. All podcasts sir I follow, but when it comes to answering, sir I don't remember anything what somebody has said. I know in podcast that this person was invited. This happens. ये क्यों होता है? If you follow too many sources, you will not be good at any single source. That is why limit your sources. I'm not saying podcasts are bad. आप देखिए अपने leisure time में. Okay. But the point is limit the things so that when you speak, see, if you have a habit of podcast reading, आपके interview में marks अपने आप notice करना, you will find a slight improvement in your marks. And these kind of nuggets, any good podcast which I feel कोई अच्छा interview है, वो मैं group में share वैसे भी करूँगा आपको. ठीक है, which I feel is of value. Any other article, any keyword which I feel is of value, either on the PSR main channel of Sunya or on your private channel, some things of this sort, I will be sharing it anyways. तो वो वहाँ से cover हो जाएगा. ठीक है? So my idea is, see, we have a lot of time and we have to spend our time purposefully. And इसके साथ GS तो करना ही है, right? Essay you have to do it. But if you put this kind of effort, even you will notice after some months, your essay articulation also gets better because we are focusing on the process of it. Fine? I hope till now you get a basic idea. This update I will be asking you on a weekly basis. See, in our program, every week you will have to update me on the progress that you are doing, including this. Okay? And the first update that you will give me is on today's homework that I have shared with you. Okay? So, ये रहेगा. बाकी the schedule, if you see, and if you notice, everything properly. In fact, the last class that you will have is around the mid of December. All of this we will be wrapping it properly, cover हो जाएगा. In case even the FLT that you want to give, यहाँ पे हमने schedule करा 16 January को, but I know many people, the moment this gets done, वो इसको भी पहले लिख सकते हैं. Okay, we can even release it earlier if that is needed. So if you see your schedule, gap अच्छे खासे हैं, time है. Keeping in mind you have GS also to balance. Okay, so prepare accordingly and follow it with a lot of conviction, right? Because as I've told you in the flow, you will be doing parallelly these many things. Lecture kara, summary, integrate, read your foundation notes, PYQ structuring, any question you are feeling stuck, directly reach out. Practice questions, okay? This will also give you a lot of confidence. Quick practice question देखा, फिर आप test लिख रहे हो. And after the test, what happens is, 1 second. So the moment you write a test, of course, you can read its model answers. There will be a test discussion. This test discussion is, in the sense, more focused on writing, because the content part is already covered here or in the classes. लिखना कैसे था, सोचना कैसे था, parts को break down कैसे करना था. And this you will best understand after writing a test. Many people will say, nahi sir, take now sessions back to back, every session on answer writing. But still they will feel scared. I don't know how to write. This is a barrier you have to bridge. And remember, we are not chasing perfection. You have 14 sectional tests and 6 FLTs in the program. Okay. If you are thorough, with each test you will have a good performance. So don't wait for the last. Sir, nahi, first I'll do all the classes. No. The moment you write a test, after every test you will get feedback. You have points to improve after every test. And you will yourself compare, sir, from first test to fifth test, now I feel far, far better. From fifth to 10th, even better. And if somebody follows this entire schedule, I am telling you beforehand, it is going to require at least 3 to 4 hour commitment from you, almost on a daily level, almost. Of course, on weekends you can take your off. Schedule भी देखा है, ठीक है? तो test discussion होगा. उसके बाद, even if you want to have one-on-one discussion with me, even this can be done. But after some one-on-ones, you will find the repetitive part of it. If you are working on, फिर आपको improvement अपने आप दिख जाएगा. Because every person is a different way of answer writing. Okay? In this, ये करेंगे. दूसरी चीज, even when you start to do the program, don't obsess on topper copies. This is something that I tell you. Okay? Because every topper has a different way of writing. Somebody has a humanities background. Somebody is good in essay. अब आपको लग रहा है सर इस टॉपिक पे ना इनके में they've had so much of flow. You don't know their attempt. You don't know how many answers they've written after writing that answer. So in the initial part, I will say, for few tests, focus only on what you are writing. After that, slowly, steadily, even I will share some proper copies and some insights when I take the discussions. That is going to be there after you have done some effort from your side. बहुत बार क्या होता है, पहले टेस्ट लिखने से पहले on that topic you've seen one of the, let's say, rank 1 की कॉपी देख डाली, ठीक? अभी तो आपने शुरू भी नहीं किया, आपने पहला टेस्ट भी नहीं लिखा है. And unnecessary comparison will come to your mind. So here you have to go one step at a time. The problems that you are facing, you ask me any solution that I want to give you, okay? And we will keep a very much interactive approach, okay? In fact, after the mains ends, after that I also have a very weekly AMA, ask me anything session. Although it is not a class ka session, it is simply informal session. You tell me your doubts, we discuss anything is happening globally, 30 minutes almost every week, so that you also get a chance to know where other people are standing. And other than that, we also have the dedicated discussion, this and that, so that is there. So I hope these handouts, etc. Achha, and these handouts, how can you access it? In your private Telegram channels, all these will be there. So with the respective classes, you will be getting it. Now your channel will be common to with the previous batch. Okay. So you have to know, and I will mention in the channel, ki, achha, this update is for 6 July batch. The update for the previous batches, because some classes will be common. For example, if I want to have an open session, okay, so that update will go in the same group. So other people who've done it even before than you, all of them combined can also have a session. So post the mains also will have some more interactive regular sessions also. Fine. I think that is my idea of what I wanted to convey. You already have now a basic handout and things to be covered from your side. People online, if there's any doubt, please let me know. People offline, if you have a doubt. Batao, anything you wanted to ask? Okay, anything you wanted to ask? We have almost the same shirt, right? White. Anything you wanted? ठीक है, समझिए, ठीक है, that is good. Okay then. The other details, if anybody has a doubt, I'm dropping a contact number. You can drop a text on this number to more if there's a doubt. Okay. You already have this number. Okay. So when I'm not taking the classes, I also have access to this. If I'm occupied in the classes, somebody else will manage the number. But if you drop a text, you mention your details, background, and again, somebody who's watching this if you're not very clear, थोड़ा सा stuck हो अपनी preparation में, if you want any inputs from my side, you can do so. ठीक है? Okay, so I think I'll end the session here. All of you can just wait for a few minutes. I'll have a word with all of you once, okay, and then we can end it.